Good evening and a very warm welcome to First Issues, as tonight we discuss the formation of the South Africa Business Forum. The organization's inaugural event was held recently on the evening of Wednesday the 13th of April at Avani Hotel and Conference Center, and was befitting of a platform that aims to form a bridge between local business interests and those of companies with South African origin or ownership. A number of concerns were raised at the media and stakeholders launch, including the tensions that have arisen over talk of the implementation of a 2007 Act that reserves business trading licenses for general clothing, auctioneers, cleaning services, curio shops, fresh produce, funeral parlors, general dealers, hairdressers, hire services, laundromats, petrol filling stations and takeaway food outlets for citizens of Botswana. This measure seems to have come about as a result of the frustrations that have arisen over South African retailers' dominance of both high-end shopping complexes and smaller ones such as this one found near the Gaborone taxi rank, and of course their lion's share of the reported over 15 billion pula in annual retail sales in Botswana. We're talking about your Woolworths, ShopRites, Pep stores, Fernmarts, Mr. Prices, game stores, Pick n Pays and other companies that dominate this country's shopping malls. Gaborone alone has 247,000 square meters of completed shopping center space, significantly higher than megacities such as Lagos and Kinshasa, according to Knight Frank's Shop Africa 2016 report. And local businesses who feel excluded from the industry have flooded the Competition Authority with enough complaints to warrant an inquiry into anti-competitive elements in Botswana's shopping malls, the findings of which, according to local newspapers, will be released soon. A situation that the South African High Commission found worrisome enough to propose that an independent forum be set up.
People were coming in with all sorts of issues that they wanted to raise with the High Commission, for the High Commission to take on their behalf with the authorities here, especially with the government. Initially, that's what we did, but we realized that we cannot be the conduit between business and government. That's not our mandate. Our mandate is to oil the relations between the two countries and ensure that the bilateral relations are in place. So I felt that they should come together, form some kind of a platform where they can not only raise issues but exchange ideas, share experiences and see how they can do business as responsible corporate citizens. And I'm so glad that finally it has happened.
Welcome back to the show as we continue to speak to some of the more prominent stakeholders that were present at the recent launch of the South African Business Forum. Aware of some of the issues that may have led to tensions between local and South African businesses, we asked the High Commissioner of South Africa to Botswana, Mdule Mbede, what incidents in particular led him to encourage the relevant players to set up a platform for dialogue and cooperation such as this one. Incidents that led him to say on the night that threats will not help anyone. Weakening the strong does not strengthen the weak.
There has been incidents in the past few months which have unsettled a lot of South African businesses, especially in the retail sector, the big retailers. The feeling is that the government has not come up with a clear-cut policy on how they want people to do business in this country. They make policy as they go along, and it is creating serious uncertainty as well. The issue of partnering with citizens is nothing new to South African businesses, but they need clarity on how the government wants it done. I'll make an example for you. There's a major department store which has been stopped from opening up 4 new stores. The department store already has more than 40 stores in this country. And suddenly, out of the blue, from nowhere, they are told they cannot open new stores if they don't take in locals as partners. And they give them 51%. Now, if you look at that, you don't get a sense that this has been thought through, because where do they fit them in? In the new stores? What about the old stores? Who do they take on as partners if they're not takers? So you don't get the clarity when you speak to the relevant department. That's what we are raising, is that if the government wants something done, it's fine. The government has a right to lay down the law on how people should do business in the country. But at least they must come up with a clear policy and articulate it properly so that people know what they're getting themselves into. At the moment, that's a major problem, is that there's no clarity.
It is not difficult, however, to understand where the voices opposing the dominance of South African businesses are coming from. And we wonder why stronger partnerships are only being discussed now and do not exist already.
Both sides are to blame for this. Maybe the South African businesses as well did not take the initiative. I'm not aware of any business person who would take an initiative in something like this. They'll wait until they're told. And if the government is serious about this as well, it has to think it through, formulate policies, and make determination of when and how it should be done. Now at the moment, you don't know whether it happens to one retailer. The other retailer is worried as well. Is it coming to me next? Because you don't know whether this one has just been singled out or is it a blanket decision. So that's another problem. It's affecting as well the investment patterns, because developers of shopping centers and malls also are starting to be jittery, because anchor tenants are reluctant to come in an uncertain environment. And they do not want to invest and then find 6 months down the line that the rules change. When they sign the contracts with the landlords, they want to know exactly what they're getting themselves into and how long it's going to last. That's all we're asking for, certainty.
Present at the launch and dominating the panel presentations with his back and forth with Commissioner Lembede was the Assistant Minister of Trade and Industry, Sadiq Kibonang, who went out of his way to assert that government is not taking away licenses, that Botswana is open to investment, but does see the need for reform within the value chain.
In the case of South Africa, they have invested here for so many years. They've become part of our lives, so we need them. But we say that every country has certain concerns that needs to be addressed, and we have those concerns. We are saying that you have invested in Botswana for so long. It's about time we see structural changes in our businesses that accommodate Botswana who want to invest in those businesses. It is time we also see some value chain that, positive linkages with local businesses. We want our local business to grow. We do not want Botswana to be spectators or the rest of their lives, simply because we are afraid to make certain noises in relation to what we think ought to happen. And this notion that this is a small market, I don't think so. It might be a small market, but it's a highly profitable market. And they know it, and that is why they're here.
It has been said, however, that foreign business people are now finding they cannot renew their work permits. And this is contributing to a sense of insecurity that is discouraging them from investing in Botswana.
90% of the permits that have been applied for, at least 90% have been approved. You will not always approve all the permits, because not everybody is desirable. Some of these business people, not all, and I say some, have been involved in illegal activities. The problem we have is that Botswana is a small country. 2, 4 people, 5 people, permits are not renewed. Suddenly it looks like it's a crisis, when it is not a crisis. We probably have renewed more permits than most countries would have renewed for people. It's like these issues of us as a ministry saying you are operating from exempted area. Once we raise it, suddenly it's like we're anti-business, but we are not. Look at the facts around you. Who's in the trading space? Who's in the shopping malls? Do you, many years later, want to wake up and say, we've remained spectators? Because you know what happens when you remain spectators in an economy? Eventually, there's an uprising. And the same businesses that had an opportunity to do what is right and to cover their own investment and to make sure they protect it. When the cost of doing that was cheaper, they will be the ones up in arms and saying, we've lost investment. Xenophobic attacks don't just happen overnight. It's the resentment of certain things that have been happening for some time. And we know the case in some of the countries we are dealing with. We have witnessed that. And that's exactly what happens, and we are trying to avoid that. We have had shopping malls in other countries being attacked because people viewed those shops as foreign shops. We don't want to view them as foreign shops. We want to view them as Botswana corporate business.
With all that has been said in mind, what does the Assistant Minister make of the formation of the South African Business Forum? And what kind of relationship can we expect for the organization to have with government?
It is needed. At least it brings into the whole equation business people from another country that perhaps hitherto didn't understand where we are trying to go. We have Business Botswana. It has its own peculiar existence and its own issues that it deals with. This is a forum that brings in together South African businesses for them to be heard, because we have concerns that we need to raise. They need concerns they need to raise. We are coming together to really find a common platform where we can discuss issues before they escalate. We are saying to business, our mandate is to grow the economy. Our mandate is to make sure that we review the law in such a way that it accommodates the growth of private sector. And obviously, if there are any laws that you are not happy with, you can't be happy with all the laws. If there are laws you're not happy with, let's talk about it, let's dialogue. And we believe that they provide the forum for a dialogue. And we are ready for dialogue. We are not prescribing to them. If it was a question that we are anti-business, believe you me, the law is already set. It empowers us, to withdraw those exemptions. We are not withdrawing exemptions. We are saying to business, if you go forward, what are you doing for local business? And I think it's a legitimate question to ask.
Welcome back to First Issues, where, having looked at the environment in which the South African Business Forum is being formed, we now speak to the man actively working to push it into motion, its Executive Director, Dennis Mashabela. Having heard the number of concerns raised by various stakeholders at the launch of the forum, it is easy to see why he says the challenges of putting the forum together were much larger than they initially anticipated.
The companies that we're talking to who are our members are led by, some are led by Botswana, some are led by South Africans, which is a great thing. But with that comes different challenges. Whereas the Botswana have other challenging things that they would like to see happen, and the South African managers have completely different issues that they would like to see happen. They would like to, so it was quite incredible in just realizing that, let alone about the companies. You have to actually find common ground within the individuals themselves. That was the start. So what we did was actually defining the areas that we believe we can be effective at, that we need to contribute, areas of contribution. Because otherwise, if you don't do that, you're actually going to fail miserably, not only as an organization, but even as individual businesses. So it was important that we find common ground ourselves and agree on whether it's enterprise development that needs to be looked at. It's education. What do we do? Do we build schools? No. How about we actually contribute to things that actually add to what's already being done? That's well. Don't go rediscover the wheel. Let's actually add to innovation issues. Let's add to entrepreneurship, because I would like us to be effective. And so I'm hoping that we had to actually deal with that internally first in order to then eventually find a common ground on which we can work at.
What can we expect from the South African Business Forum with regards to their near, mid and long-term plans?
We will spend a lot of our time calling on stakeholders, going to meet with them, creating meetings, round tables, where we talk, create workshops, so we actually create real things that can actually lead to either change in policy to whatever. So a great part of our energies are going to be spent there. We'll have dinners, we'll have partnership weeks where where the intention is to really identify opportunities, whether it's in business, in tourism, in as even said, right through to social and the arts.
The plans for integration and collaborations across a wide range of industries is thoroughly exciting. But for those of you who may be struggling to visualize them, we ask Mr. Mashabela what opportunities are to be found for local business people through the work of the forum.
To spell it out, in what I see a number of our members, and some of them are already doing that. I see opportunities in actually contracting and actually outsourcing work, value chain, i.e. linking South African and essentially South African companies that operate here have an opportunity, and I even dare say a responsibility to begin procuring product and services from local companies. And by doing so, they're not doing anybody favors. It's not a benevolence. It makes business sense. In creating an environment or economy that is actually successful is good for your own business, because you're really only people that can afford to will buy your products. So it's important that you actually help be part of the wealth that's being created in the country, and do not treat your customers purely like consumers, because some customers can also be your clients, can also be your suppliers. So I believe that South African businesses, and indeed all foreign businesses that operate in Botswana, should begin to look at this country and not look at it as a small market of 2.5 million people, should look at it as a great opportunity to actually create and manufacture and do stuff in a small market that is absolutely pro-business, and that can be even more pro-business, but to do stuff in that market and actually export elsewhere. Therein lies the opportunity. So I think there will be opportunities to procure from South African companies, but there'll be opportunities to actually do partnerships with South African companies to produce for local as well as for external markets.
This vision is very grand, but is it doable? What structures are in place to implement all these plans?
One of the first things we did after we kind of got a sense of where we're at was we came up with a foundation document, and I'll happily share that with you. And this founding document really talks to, firstly, importantly, says what it is that we aspire to do. And it's that code that gets captured amongst what we strive for. That's really what is at the essence of what it is we'd like to be measured by. How successful we'll be should really be determined by how much contribution and what kind of impact we've done in the areas that we believe we need to be effective at, whether that's building partnerships between Botswana and South African businesses. And I'm not talking about the big organizations only, but the SMEs. That's quite important. How we contribute along the various lines, and I think they're quite clearly well pointed out in our funding document. The structures are not in place, because the structures is really, at this point in time, I am the structure. I think importantly is that it's not the individual that does the structures, it's actually people. So yes, we've got an office, we're now fixing up our office, but most importantly is that the members of the organization are within the structures of the organization as well. So they're on the board, they're on committees, and they will also be doing categories, industry categories that will be headed up by the members. So it's a voluntary organization, and more often than not, we then need to use the members to get the work done. And I'm currently the only one that's really driving it on a more full-time basis, in addition to running my own business as well. So yes, we'll find out collaborating with Busines Botswana to do stuff. We'll find us collaborating with BITC to do stuff. So I think the idea is, how can we be innovative at actually ensuring that we build structures and actually use the existing structures to actually get things done, as opposed to creating a new bureaucracy.
Welcome back to the show. As in conclusion to tonight's conversations, we now speak to the president of Business Botswana, who, unlike some other business entities, say we should roll out the red carpet for South African businesses because, quote, their success is our success.
South African companies have been in this country for a very long time. Retail in Botswana, I am quite aware that whatever you sell here in the retail shops has been manufactured in South Africa. The jobs were created in South Africa. So we are basically creating jobs for South Africa. But when you start looking at manufacturing, if the manufacturing, PP cement is here, that's about manufacturing. Those are companies that are domiciled in South Africa and domiciled here, if we do not create the corporate citizens in Botswana, we are risking the possibilities of dumping. Now when we have corporate citizens in Botswana, we will have an opportunity for our own employees, our own people, to learn manufacturing and to develop advanced skills, which is why I'm saying let's roll the red carpet for the South Africans to come here so that we can benefit from the actual manufacturing and assembling of various products that we already consume anyway from the retail.
Despite Business Botswana's clear enthusiasm for South African companies to become corporate citizens of Botswana, Mr. Masianyane says the relationship needs to be mutually beneficial and not feature practices such as dumping, a practice we asked him to define.
Certain goods that you deliver to one country where there's no value addition. Any goods that come to Botswana, there must be value addition in bringing them here. They must be needed and so on. If you bring in goods to Botswana that they did not pass your legislation in your own country, that's dumping. And there are lots of countries that do that to each other. I'm not saying it's existing. I'm saying the only way to ensure that what we get from another country, if we persistently get it, to make sure that there is no dumping, you create a corporate citizen so that they can answer to that and they can in fact toe the line insofar as the laws and regulations of the countries where they are playing are concerned.
It is our hope that this forum is successful in resolving some very pertinent points of contention for the benefit of all businesses operating in Botswana. And we'll be sure to keep you posted on the developments. Until next week and another issue of interest, I, Namitso Samakula, the team behind First Issues, and our sponsors, First National Bank, wish you a good night and pleasant viewing.